I'm Joseph James Hartman. In this series, Janiece shares her journey through trauma, injury, illness, mental imbalance, addictions, suicide, self-harm, gender identity, battered by religion, and identity. Discover a world seldom seen or experienced by most people. Janiece takes us on a journey as she guides us through the desires, fears, failures, hopes, and victories she faced. Through her eyes, others can see how to face these challenges with hope, understanding, determination, and encouragement, no matter how devastating one's future looks. It truly is one of the greatest miraculous stories in our generation. For friends, families, churches, or groups that are reaching out to others, her story will provide necessary insight in how to help. For victims, they will find answers. If you haven't read her biography yet, you may want to get one, as it goes more into detail about her life, as well as provides the documentation behind the story. Visit our website at sentenceofdeath.destinedforlife.com for more information. Thank you.
Today we're going to talk about mental imbalance, emotional traumas, and things that have had set me on a course towards many things that happened to me. Now that I have compassion for others as a result. I understand folks better, and anyway, so here we go. Some of the things that happened, one was when we were little, Project Terror was a big TV show at night. I don't know, it was Friday night or Saturday night, and we'd all gather in the living room up against the couch. Lights were off, and it's a black and white show, but it was intense for the times. And Project Terror was named pretty well for what it did. In any case, we'd be sitting there watching it, and it'd start to come to a peak, and I'm just a little kid. And it would come to a place where something was going to happen. Right then, Dad would grab a couple of shoulders, because we were sitting on the floor up against the couch, and Mother and Dad were on the couch. And sitting next to Dad, it was just never a good idea, because he had too much fun with this. And he'd go, ah! You know, like that. And all of us, you know, young girls, high-pitched voices screamed at the same time. And he got so tickled. But what it does, though, is it set me up to be scared easily in the dark. And, you know, we don't know as people a lot of times, or as parents, young parents even, unless somebody's taught us or told us that whenever you do something like that, it can actually instill fear and cause a person to carry that throughout their lives, especially if they get in a very vulnerable situation later in their lives that changed completely. So that was one of the things. Another thing was here in Colorado Springs, I found out that spirits were real. Let me just put it that way. And it was very frightful to meet up with things that go boo in the dark, but it was daylight, and that was even worse. Anyway, so there was a time when I had already had the injury on my arm, and I was going through some traumatic things, and Dr. Lee Dennis he's the one who talked to me that I needed to go and see a psychiatrist, talk to somebody, because I was having such a struggle. Yeah, I wanted it to get better and better. What else could they do to fix my arm? Make it better all the time. But I was so driven in that, and also getting depressed. Here's a person that was always around people, loved to hang out, loved to party, worked with my hands, worked with people, and then suddenly I'm taken out of it. And so here I am alone and depressed at home. And so I wanted more surgeries and more things done to get better so I can get my life going again. Well, Dr. Dennis said, you have a choice of 2 doctors that I know of personally, and I send people to. And one was Elizabeth Mitchell. And so I didn't want to do this, but he wasn't going to go on with any more surgeries until I dealt with this and I got help. And so that it made me mad for sure. I was oh man, It's like, that's a cheap shot. I gotta go talk to somebody in order to get my arm fixed. That's really weird, and I don't want to do this. But, you know, he's the doc, and he's the one who did the surgeries. He wasn't going to schedule anything until I got some help. So, it was on me. And, of course, I went for it. I didn't want to be there, and she knew it. When I got in that office, it was like, so, she asked me, like, why are you here? And it's like, because Dr. Dennis said so. And when Dr. Dennis said to do this because I can't have any more operations until I do, then I got to do this thing. So what do I do? She goes, just start talking. I said, I don't want to talk. I talk about obstinance. I had that going on so well. Anyway, in these times with her, though, it was very helpful. I got more and more relaxed and was able to share my life, and it's like, wow, that's pretty cool that I could talk about things that nobody, you know, it's not about judging, it's about helping. And I thought, this is really neat. But I was so depressed, there were times that I couldn't sleep, times I'd sleep too much. I was up, I'd have high highs and low lows. And she called it a clinical depression at first. And of course, post-traumatic stress disorder hadn't even been written yet that I knew of. They didn't call it the PTSD. It wasn't something out there. It was all about depression. It was, anyway, so that was the first label I got, was that I was clinically depressed. Oh, I was depressed, all right. And she wanted to put me on some medication after a few visits and all. And it was so difficult to just exist in the world, you know, and be alone. Everybody I knew worked, and in the evening, it was just so hard to get through every day. I was so lonely. So anyway, and the party, and that just, you know, that got old too. I did still party, but it was just not the same without anybody around. And so I did have a one-bedroom apartment I had moved into after a period of time. And the reason why I moved into this one was because it was across the street from the hospital. It was Villa Rosa over there on Babcock Road in San Antonio, Texas. And because I was visiting that hospital so often, I was in and out, and there was a lot of support there. So I got medications that helped me at the time, and antidepressants, antipsychotics, not an antipsychotic, sorry, anti-anxiety. There was a time, though, that I was in my apartment, and it was during the day, and all of a sudden the room went dark. When it went dark like that, it scared me. It took my breath away. And then I realized that it was more than that. It was so dark. It was pitch dark on a hot, bright, sunny day. And it went pitch black. And then from that darkness, I felt this binding, or this terrorizing feeling like I couldn't hardly breathe. And I was so afraid. And so this thing was standing in front of me, and it had green glowing eyes, and a finger came out from it and said, "You're mine." It scared me so bad that I couldn't move. I was just like I was bound up or something, you know. I just couldn't move. And so I thought, if I could just say the name of Jesus, I'll be free. I remember that his name, you know, the name of Jesus, demons have to flee, everything has to go, you know, and I remember that from my childhood somehow. And so I went ahead and I said, I kept trying to say it, but it was like my jaw was clenched as well. My jaw, it was just like I couldn't speak. I was too terrorized to speak. And, oh, I tried so hard. So I thought, well, if I close my eyes, yeah, if I close my eyes, I won't see the thing that scared me. And maybe I can say the name of Jesus. So I closed my eyes, and I went, Jesus. And then, if you close your eyes, you can see that there's darkness in the dark. But if you close your eyes in the light, you can tell it's still light. So as I slowly opened my eyes because I sensed there was light again in the room through my eyelids. And I opened up my eyes, and I was able to relax. Now that day I was suicidal too. I went through many bouts of being suicidal because I was so depressed, so lonely. Nobody seemed to be able to help. I couldn't be strong anymore, didn't have it in me. This is one of the funniest stories that happened while I was at the hospital. I wasn't at the hospital at the time, but it was during those times, those years, that I was in and out of the hospital. And I was over at my sister Deborah's house, which I got to go there frequently, and I felt like it was just wonderful to go on day passes or to be able to just go over there and be around somebody during the day when I was starting to feel better. And she was always there for me all the time, her and the kids. And it was just so neat because they were so little, and they were always giggling or something, you know, the boys. There was a time when I was taken to the San Antonio State Hospital, and that was tough. I was actually put in a straitjacket. Originally I'd gone into Charter Real to get cleaned up from, I'd gotten myself addicted to the methamphetamine IV, or intravenous. And I called my psychiatrist, and I said, Dr. Mitchell, I think I got myself addicted to methamphetamine. I've been shooting up, and what do I do? I feel like this is going too far. And so she said, go to Charter Real. So I have a room for you set up and everything, and you can go through the Narcotics Anonymous, and, you know, not Narcotics Anonymous, but you can get cleaned up in that unit. So I went there, started getting cleaned up, and the hallucinations started, and the voices started again, because there were so many times that I would be hallucinating and or hear voices, and they usually would tell me how to harm myself, and sometimes even others, and they would talk to me and bother me, and it was just a real traumatic time to be so lost, and the person who I wasn't anymore. So here I was over there, and I'm hallucinating, and I went and I asked them if they could give me a PRN, which is a medication that is used only as needed. And so they said, no, you're on a drug unit, a drug abuse unit. You can't have that kind of medication. I said, call my doctor, call Dr. Mitchell, please. I can't deal with this, you know, and can I sleep out in the galley area, the main area by the galley? And no, you have to sleep in your room. And I said, you don't understand. I'm too scared to be in there right now in my room. I don't know what I'll end up doing. I'm afraid of myself. And so what she did is they went ahead and called the doctor and said, well, the only way this can happen, she got me on the phone, she spoke to me over the phone. The only way this can happen is that I put you in the psych ward again. And instead of getting clean, you'll be able to make your meetings and everything and go to the classes, but you'll have to be on the psych ward. I said, okay. And so she put me over there on the psych ward, and I would go for meetings and take the classes and all. One time, I got so suicidal that I tried to cut my arms. And those are those marks there. And when they discovered what I was up to, of course I always felt bad and busted, you know, that kind of feeling like I just got caught, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. Because I never wanted to be in trouble. I always felt like, oh, if I could stay out of trouble, I'm doing well. I didn't like it when I was little because it seemed like I was always in trouble. So it was carrying over even that. That was traumatic even back then to get in trouble. So this was just more intensified as I was going through these emotional, mental problems. So anyway, they put me on one-to-one, which is where they have a nurse or somebody sitting outside the room, outside of my room, watching me. I wasn't allowed to do anything or go anywhere by myself, even to the restroom. They had to be there, because someone that's on suicide watch just cannot be loose. They took my shoestrings away, they take everything away, anything that you could cut yourself with or anything that you could hurt yourself with. The belt to the robe, everything has to go. They take it all away, put it in a bag until you're well enough to be back on the regular ward with everyone else. And so I was going downhill still with this, especially after getting caught cutting myself like that. And it wasn't bad enough for stitches. I didn't have, I used an Ensure tab, which is, you know, you pop the tab off of it, throw it away. It's a can of Ensure. And I was on that because I was off and on anorexic too. And so I didn't go deep enough, so, but it was enough to bandage and to keep me under watch. I went downhill, things were going worse, and for some reason, all of a sudden, I just went ballistic, and I started thrashing about, and they ended up putting a straitjacket on me. And because I acted out in a private institution like that, they weren't equipped for that, evidently. And so they got a court order, I think it was, yeah, because the sheriff came and picked me up and to go to San Antonio State Hospital. I was so scared. So I got to the hospital and they said, we're going to have you under observation for a week. And depending on how you behave and how you respond to medication, it will determine whether you get turned loose or not within a week. So I'm at the state hospital, and in there the ward is big. You know, once you get out of suicide watch, it's great. But the ward is very large. There's people in several beds to a room, and everybody shares the same showers, and everything is like that. And so when they gather also in the middle for group or for whatever's going on, then that's when you just kind of learn and see what is so different from being in a private hospital. While I was in there, they would go round and round in a circle. And I didn't understand why they did it. I would just copy, because, you know, I don't want to get in trouble. Now, the way my mother and dad said I said it was, I don't want to get my ass so sling. Anyway, it was because I didn't like trouble. I just wanted to just go with the flow, and because they had full authority over you in these places. They could bind you up, they could put you away, they could drug you, and I didn't want any of that. I thought, I'm just going to go ahead and behave myself. And so when Mother and Dad came to visit me and bring me some quarters so I could use them for the phone and other things and for snacks, they said, well, why is everybody going in a circle over there? Why were you all going in a circle? And I said, well, I don't know. It's just what they do, and I'm just copying them. I don't want to get in trouble. So anyway, there were just some funny things that happened that didn't make sense, and that they did later. Later on, I found out it was for exercise. You know, because most people that are enclosed like that for a long time, on medication or whatever's going on, they tend to, they just need some exercise. Get that oxygen going, because that also helps the oxygen to the brain, and people know this in fitness now, working, you know, trainers and all that. They know that if you get moving around, you have oxygen to the brain, the depression or any kind of sadness usually will just go, because it's a lack of oxygen. Well, I didn't know that stuff back then. I just copycatting to stay out of trouble. Anyway, it was just kind of funny. Then there was another time, and it too was funny, sad to say, because the situation was I was hearing voices a lot, and I was back in Villa Rosa Hospital, and it was, I love the med nurse. He and I used to shoot pool, and I used to look forward to him. He used to be the security guard, but then he got his license for nursing, and he'd gone to school and all that, and so now he's the medicine nurse, or med nurse. And we were shooting pool one day, and I was standing there with this pool cue like this, just waiting, the cue stick, you know, for my turn, and I got like spun around, and I said, "Whoa, did you see that?" And he said, "See what?" And I said, "Did you hear that?" And he goes, "Hear what?" I said, "I don't know what just went by, but it was like a herd of elephants." And I said, "I don't know what it was, but I felt it and I heard it and saw it. I just barely saw it. It was just real fast." And he goes, "What do you think about me checking to see if you have another PRN schedule that you can take, you know?" And I said, "Oh, that again, huh? Okay, sure, yeah, because I don't want to keep seeing and hearing and feeling this stuff." Because I would have auditory hallucinations, visual hallucinations, and tactile hallucinations at this point. And so, the tactile, by the way, is touch. I would feel them as well as hear them and see them. And so he went back around, he says, "Yeah, you're due for another one." Well, at this time I was on Thorazine. And we used to cut up a lot. And when you're in the hospital a lot with these people that are there to watch you and help you, I was so dependent on them. I leaned on them for everything because I was so afraid. By this time, of course, they called it paranoia schizophrenia, because I had gone from depression to clinical depression to multiple personality disorder, and there were all kinds of things as I was going along with this, and over the period of years. And I was at the point of paranoid schizophrenia, and we didn't know what was happening to me other than it was just a downhill slide from where I was from the accident that occurred on my arm. And so I got to the medicine window, the med window, and he says, "Okay, here we go." And he wrote it out, how much, you know, I was to get, and he was just, you know, he'd used an eyedropper to put it into the cup because it was liquid Thorazine. And he was fooling around, and he threw a straw in the bottle, and he didn't quite hand it in my reach, but he goes, "Here you go, you might as well just go this route." And we both laughed real hard, and then he just handed me my cup, and I took it down. And so it was just one of those funny times, because you need to laugh when you're suffering. You need to have friends around you, people that get you, and they know who you are. And it was sad that I was there so much throughout those 7 years that we knew each other very well. But there were a few that I stayed really, really close to. And with the depression being so bad, there were 2 different times, one earlier in the years and one later, that I actually had shock treatments. And it was to kind of like reset my brain in a way. It would help with, anyway, it messed up the short-term memory, but it didn't mess with or hurt the long-term. And it didn't last very many days in a row, but it was a very, very hard time as far as I'd come back to the unit after it was done, and I didn't know anybody. I wasn't sure of anything. I was lost. It was as though, who am I? What am I doing here? And I was scared. And it must have been like what a child would feel like if their parent left them and they're just kind of in a room with strangers. That's what it felt like. And it's like, now what? What do I do all day? What do I do? What did I do? Am I okay? Am I okay? Am I behaving myself all right? But when the memories started coming back, the short-term memories, it was very warming because there were certain nurses there that were protective and kind. I had the best nurses. That I could say. I didn't like all the medications. I didn't like the bindings at times. I didn't like the restrictions. I didn't like that sometimes I'd misbehave and throw tantrums and I'd have to go to ICU, which was totally isolated from everybody else and with people that were even more messed up than me and were dangerous sometimes too. That there was this one guy called the pincher. I mean, everybody called him the pincher because guess what? He pinched people. And he pinched hard too. He wasn't nice about it. And things can happen even in institutions like that you don't expect could happen because there's only a certain amount of nurses and they can't be with every individual and watch everything going on in every room. So anyway, some of the things that I experienced was anxiety, and I don't know why it was so intense, but it was. The anxiety that I felt was every day, so it wasn't really an attack, it just never really stopped. And Valium didn't help, Ativan didn't work. Those were like, they just didn't quite calm it. But the Xanax always worked. Well, whenever I was home, I was doing speed. At the first time the speed I took was the methamphetamine, but it was in powder form, so I'd snort it. Well, I would take to come down after a couple of days and relax, go to sleep finally, I would take the Xanax. So I'd gotten addicted to that too. And I got to where I was taking multiples. And so, but in the hospitals it was, I would wake up in the morning, they would take all of our vital signs, and my pulse would already be racing up close to 120. Just waking up and coming out into the day area to get on the scale, to have my vitals taken, and it was always high. Another funny story in this is right towards the end of all this going on with the anxiety and the mental stuff, the emotional trauma and everything. I was anorexic, but at the same time the anxiety was high. And there was this man he only came in every once in a while. I didn't know him. It turns out it was Jim Autry. And as I look back, I'm thinking, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I treated you like that. Anyway, and I did get to tell him later, but he was there to watch me because I couldn't have another PRN, which was another dose of Xanax. They have to be every 4 hours at the very least. And I had another hour or more to go. And he was told to come out and sit with me and maybe talk with me and help me somehow, just to be with me and help me deal. So he came out and I'm sitting there, and it's freezing weather in these hospitals. I mean, everybody, you've got to take jackets, sweaters, whatever. And I'm sweating, although I'm cold. I'm cold, but I'm sweating because the anxiety is so high. The pulse is racing. And I would grip the chair with all my strength. Just grip and hold it, you know, because it was like I was like that a lot, you know. And he's there and he's saying, so, and chit-chat and all this chit-chat. And finally he said, can I just pray for you? And I went, if it makes you feel good. And he said, okay. So he started praying for me. I didn't like anybody having to do with the Lord. It's like, can we just leave him out? He's no help. I've been asking for help for years. I'm not getting any help. And I'm just surviving, not even, just barely existing, not even surviving. And I just went off the planet. So he prayed for me, and he says, how do you feel? And I said, not a whole lot better. There's no difference. He says, okay, I'll talk to him then and see if it's time yet for a PRN. Anyway, it was just so, the look on my face was like, I'm going to kill you. You know, because I was very, there was so much animosity. And it's like, you think prayer's going to work? I've been doing this for years. It's not working. It's like, you want to die? You know, and I was so angry. And angry towards God because, you know, like, hey, what's the deal here? You know, how much more misery, you know, do I have to go through? Why don't you just take me off the planet? Just please, just, you know, take me home. Just take me home. You know, can it just all be just over with? So I was crying out with tears, but yet I was angry when someone wanted to pray for me because it didn't work. And I was so cynical. It's like, oh sure, yeah, like God's real. But yet I kept crying out to him though. You know, it's so contradictory, my behavior, because it's like I knew he existed, but I didn't believe it. I was in the right place, I was in a nut house. But anyway, the loneliness was intensive. I mean, I'd worn everybody out. I'd already done all the classes throughout the years. You know, the meditation, the deep breathing, imagine yourself. Oh, and then the muscle thing, where you tense up your toes, hold them for a few seconds. You tense up your ankle, you hold it for a few seconds. Then you tense up your calf muscles, hold it for a few seconds, relax. And all the way up the body, and you visualize all this stuff. It's like, really? It's supposed to relax you before you go to bed? It's like, I didn't sleep most of the time. What are you talking about? I was taking all kinds of meds just to keep me awake, put me to sleep, you know. It was incredible the amount of medications out there. You know, I often wondered, you know, you just shake my head and it'll rattle, you know, like a gumball machine full of pills. I just wasn't getting help from all these meds. I sure wished I had, because I was just in such a desperate place and crying out, and I just wanted to be saved. I didn't notice what I wanted, but yeah, I did need somebody to save me. You know, throw me bring me a lifeboat, or throw me one of those lifesavers. Somebody, please. Does anyone have any answers? And so, when I was sent to my sister's house, because there was just, they couldn't afford, I couldn't afford anymore to live there in the hospitals all the time, because the Medicare wasn't paying anymore. And I didn't understand why they didn't tell me that I was given up for dead because the brain cells were dying. I didn't know that yet. That was years to come that they finally told me. But all I knew is I couldn't afford to be there because of Medicare. And so they found a place for me, and that was over at my sister's house. She took care of Alzheimer's patients, and it was in her own house. And so I became a patient there. And needless to say, things were falling off of me. Cares of the world, so to speak, I guess. You know, things like, I'm not interested in a love relationship with anyone. I wasn't interested in drugs anymore because it would scare me. If I took a hit off a joint, it was like, I can't take this. Not even one drag, just one hit off this thing. No more, no more. You know, it was just too much for me. And I didn't know it was in my brain that things were short-circuiting and things were not right anymore. in the physiological area. All I knew was that I couldn't deal. I really just wanted to go to be with the Lord. It's like there's got to be a better place. I heard about it when I was little. They always talked about Jesus, and He's all loving. He gave His own life for me, and it's like, will you just take me home then? If that's where home is, I want to go home. Please, please God, please hear my cries. Just take me home. I just want to go home. And so there was a place of existence versus living. And there was no reason to be around anymore. My oldest sister would always listen to the praise and worship music. They would go to church, and they had times were separate, their family time, and the patients went to bed early at 8 or, like that. And I couldn't watch TV in my room. I had a TV, but I couldn't watch it because, 8 o'clock's bedtime. It was like 8 o'clock. I wasn't sleeping much. I was on Chlorhydrate just to try to help me sleep, from the doctor. So anyway, I was still seeing the psychiatrist while I was there a couple of times a week on an outpatient basis. I was going to, no, I wasn't going anywhere anymore. By then I was just placed in the home. And I felt completely kicked to the curb. They took my license away and my car away because I was under guardianship for years. But now for some reason, what happened? What changed that I don't even get to have a license anymore? And so I don't even have a name, and talk about stripped of all identity, Broken vessels are poised for salvation. They really are, because they're not too prideful. They can't do it all themselves anymore, and they're not so wonderful anymore. But one day I went out on the porch because normally we always had to smoke outside. There's no smoking in the house. And I was smoking like 2 cartons a week. So I was outside a lot whenever I could be. Plus I didn't want to hear that praise and worship music. Really? Again? Gee, is that all you listen to? I mean, there's more out there, Get a life. And so I had my headphones on, and because I was hearing voices all the time. And it was just torment, and it was nagging, and it was torment. There was no hope, nothing going on. So I went outside to have a smoke. It was raining, so I was on the porch. And my sister stepped out, just not even all the way out the porch, because of the eave. But she opened the door, she said, "You want to stay sick forever?" And I said, No, I don't. I don't. Well, she'd already closed the door and gone back inside. There was probably a little bit more discourse there, but this was such a point in my life that I remember so well. Coming out of this fog for the first time, being aware, not being tormented. All of a sudden, the voices are silenced. It's like, wow, now what? So I threw the cigarette butt in the Folgers can, and I blew out the smoke, went inside, and I said, now what? Now what? What do I do now? And she goes, well, what do you mean, now what? I said, I don't want to be sick forever. What do I do? And she goes, well, let's pray. And I said, okay. I'm going from, there's so much animosity towards all that to, okay. I mean, I had to pass through all that, and that was with gnashing of my teeth. You know, just being, you know, like that, through all the praise and the worship sound to go out for a smoke, and the next thing I know, I'm going, okay, to prayer. And she just prayed and had me copy, and she says, you already know Jesus, you know, you've already had a born-again experience. And it's like, I don't think so. This is new. This is way new. Oh, I've always loved Jesus and always wanted to be with him, but wow. And I said, well, now what do we do? And she said, well, how about I start teaching you some stuff, you know, reading some of the Bible, and over a period of time I was learning word studies and what they were, and so all of a sudden I've got peace. Wow, I used to try to get that from drugs and from people. I've got some love. I'm still a little bit angry. I'm a lot angry, still angry, frustrated. But because I repented and I gave my heart back to him again, it was like, that was the beginning of a whole new life. God bless you guys. I'll see you on the next DVD. Cheers.
Thank you for listening to this session of the Journey to Hope 7-video or audio set. We hope it has encouraged you as well as strengthened you in your walk. We pray that your journey with the Lord will be as close and as special as you want it to be. God is no respecter of persons. What He has done for one, He can do for all. He pulled Janiece out of a hopeless situation after everyone had given up hope, and He totally restored her. He can do that for anyone. Don't ever give up. We hope that you listen to the complete series as they were recorded as a complete set. Her book, Sentenced to Death, Destined for Life, is also available in print, on the Kindle, and the Nook for a more detailed journey through her story, and it includes documentation backing the story. I am also working on the screenplay to take her story and to produce it into a movie. Please contact us through our websites if you need help, more information, or would like to book us for your group. We will travel as the Lord leads, fulfilling His command to us. Tell my people I love them. Visit our website at sentencedtodepth.destinedforlife.com for our meeting schedules and more information. Abundant blessings to you and your loved ones. Thank you.